Hey, Fam. We've got two guests for you today. Power duo. So we met these awesome ladies doing the We Make Movies competition, which if you guys are brand new listeners and just tuning in, a little bit about them. They are a organization out here in LA. They also have a New York hub. And they're a lot of things. They're a community of filmmakers. They're also a film production company. Basically, they are resources for filmmakers and people within that scope, so writers, directors, whatever it is that you do. But they connect people. They do things like mentoring in these competitions. They can offer help with things like permits and insurance and all that stuff. So they really
Post-production.
yeah, they do a lot of different things. So their competition was a script writing and pitching competition, is how I would describe it. I don't remember how it was originally billed to us, but that's how I would describe it. So basically, we have been pitching what will be our first feature film, and the three winners of this competition got $25,000 to then complete their project. So these gals that we have on our show today were one of the three winners, and their names are Lauren Neal and Jill Bennett. I'll let them explain, what the film is about and their journey with it. But we were just really blown away by seeing their pitch and them talking about what is important to them with this process and how they prepared and how they prepared knowing, what We Make Movies has to offer, what their resources were. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we were just really blown away. So we got a hold of them. They sent us their full pitch package and we were like, okay, we're even more blown away.
Yeah.
So we're really excited now to have a relationship with these girls because I think they are awesome filmmakers who actually care about sharing their knowledge and helping other people out in the community, which they talk about in this episode. So yeah, we're just really glad that we have a relationship with them now, and we're excited for you guys to hear about their process and their film. And anything else to add?
Yeah, no, I think you guys will definitely get a lot of great takeaways of what pitching can look like, and the different, we had different approaches, and how they solidified their amazing all-star female team,
Mhm.
and where they are taking it to the next steps and the reality of that. And I hope you guys get some great takeaways. I know we did. So we're just really excited to share, and there's definitely a lot of great gems and I think things to think about when you are trying to finance, but also what it can be like on set. So I hope you guys get enjoy. I know we did.
To put it, I guess, as simply as possible, our protagonist, Lex, is an artist, and she creates a series of digital NFTs, which is something that's more and more people are starting to get into, or sort of at like the right before I think it explodes. So
Mm-hmm.
that was part of our interest. Lauren is getting a master's in data science, so she has some domain knowledge around this. And it's something that we're really interested in because it really starts to push the envelope of like, what is art? Who owns art?
The value it holds. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
exactly. And how we decide as a society what is important and what isn't. And she has a relationship with a woman who's sort of like a mentor and an art influencer under the influencer, who we open the film seeing the two of them in an interesting situation. I don't want to give too much away, but essentially there's a little bit of swimming with sharks. There's a little bit of misery. The relationship between the two women, and we explore. And it's interesting because since winning, I don't have a problem talking about this because we will talk about it through the process. We have shifted a few plot points based on input from We Make Movies and from our investor. And it's been interesting because we were able to sell the project, for lack of a better word, on an outline and not a full script, which was part of our approach with the contest, was to say, we're not so far along in this process that we are married to, you know, like people, when you spend all this time on a script, it's understandably your baby and you don't want to make changes, or you're attached to certain aspects of the script. And we were like, we're not. I mean, we are attached to the basic storyline, but we are open to collaboration and ideas, and allowing the script to breathe a bit based on what resources become available to us through this contest and through our own relationships. So I think, you know, thank you for saying that you wanted us to get picked, but I do think a part of why we won is because we came into it with a very different, unique selling point than everybody else, which is we're not completely set. We have our crew together and we have an idea, but we're not, you know, super attached to anything. And that was not a short answer, by the way.
No, that's really great.
Jill's like a kind of master micro budget producer, I would say. Honestly, she just has so much experience doing this and has done it many, many times, has done projects from $2,000 to $50,000, has gotten international distribution for even things like that. And she thought it was really key that we backed into the resources that would be available to us, right? We weren't sure, right? We're like, okay, we'll have this amount of money, which is not a lot of money to make a feature film. Can't tell you how many people we told. They were like, oh, 25,000 for a short film? Like, no,
exactly.
the whole thing. But, you know, not really knowing the landscape, right, of WeMakeMovies and what would be provided, like what sort of services or equipment. We just didn't want to end up with some incredible story that then we find out later after the fact we can't actually do those things, right? And then having our dreams shattered or what have you. So yeah, that's the approach that we took.
Yeah.
No, that's a really great approach to have, and definitely not the approach we took. And that's fair. And no, but it's great to hear how you yourselves worked around that, because everything you're saying is so valid and true. And I think for us, we didn't know about the competition. We had been striving towards a micro budget film, feature film. And yes, like $25,000 isn't quite a substantial load to support that, but still like trying to keep it really minimal. So we had, but you know, we were also open, like whatever it takes to make it happen within the budget parameters, that's important to us, and keeping true to the story's themes and everything. So I think you just have to really prepare yourselves if it's your baby, which this one is. It's more important that the message and that our first feature film was done. Is this would this be a first feature debut for both of you as well as creators?
I guess yes. I mean, I've been in features in a leadership role. I guess not entirely, but one that I've been with like since its inception. Yes, as far as features go. Babe, I guess maybe the first feature for you, even though you've done a lot of series.
Yeah, I've had a lot of my series be cut for film festival purposes, cut into like feature length presentations. But yeah, as far as straight feature, this is the first. I mean, I've been a producer on multiple feature films, all the way from like the beginning seeds to like about to go to set, and then the funding fell through. So this is like the first feature where it appears as though the money is going to come through and we'll actually make the film. So yes.
Yeah. And do you two often work together, or is this like the first big project that you're taking on together?
We've done a lot of small, like kind of one-off things together. Like we did a PSA thing that Jill wrote and that we directed for the election in 2016. We filmed some vignettes. Jill had a series that she created, a comedy series that we did pitch to some networks, I guess about 5 years ago. And I was serving as a co-EP on that project. But yeah, honestly, we've never really acted together. And actually, we're not going to in this either, as it turns out. But yeah, I would say that this is the first like major, larger project that we're actually going to make, fingers crossed, where we're working really closely together.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that either of us have ever done where the other one isn't a part of the process. Like we also work, both of us in marketing. So we've created a ton of like, dozens and dozens of videos and stuff. And we're always there helping each other with notes or ideas or spitballing or editing or any of that. Like I would say we always work with each other on projects, but in an official capacity, yes, I would say this would be the first full thing. Again, once again, that we're able to do. Like Bad Habits, the series she referenced earlier. We actually filmed some vignettes for it, some character vignettes to try to sell the show. So we did work together in that sense. Those were like one-day shoots. But yeah, a long sustained from beginning all the way to the end. This will be the first time.
Yeah. And that's so exciting to like finally get to see all the hard work that goes on before you shoot a project and behind the scenes and all of that stuff like actually come together and you're like, okay, we've got money. Like we can actually get to do this now.
Well, you guys too, I think, at least checking out some of what you guys have done, you're probably coming from a similar place as us, like wanting to actually have some creative control over what ultimately ends up on screen. Like Jill and I have both started strictly as actors, and I think we're both a little too controlling to be entirely 100% happy with that. Jill has had this happen more than I have, but I have too plenty of times when I watch a film back that I'm in and I'm like, oh, wow, I don't know if I misread, or like I was thinking this was my character had a different function in this film. I might have played it differently if I had a better sense of what this actually was going to be. And I'm just excited to actually get to decide some of those things.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people that maybe really love and appreciate filmmaking, but aren't filmmakers themselves or actors themselves don't realize is like, if you're not in charge, you don't always even know what the end product's really going to be. You can be an actor playing out these scenes. You've read the whole script, and then in the end, you're like, wait, that's how the audience is supposed to feel about my character? I had no idea. Or like, that was the motivation the whole time. Like, it's pretty wild how much, directing and editing and stories change during the filmmaking process. So yeah, that's a really good point to bring up. It's nice to have control and get to tell the story that you want to tell.
Yep.
Yeah, 1000%. That's what definitely led us into the producer chair. We're both also coming from the actor background, and the more I've learned editing, I then want to do directing, and that's why, like for this film too, I really didn't want to give up the director seat as well. Like it's a hard thing to want to commit fully in because it's a lot of work, as you guys know, like doing the producing. I wrote our script too. And like, so I just felt like I have the vision. I don't want to let it go. And I want to put my stamp on it and know like that Tessa and I can go back to the editing room and be happy with like the shots that we're putting out there. So just everything that you guys said is exactly why I want to do it.
I also think, just as an addendum to that, when you're working on smaller projects and independent projects, the other thing that is and has been frustrating to me in my career is having projects that are actually solid and would be good vehicles for me, but that no one will ever see for whatever reason, right? Whether because whatever the plan was for once the film was completed or distribution and all those sorts of things, that sort of administrative work, right, that has to happen,
right?
After completion, but before anyone can see it, or whether that's going to film festivals or talking to distributors or what have you. There's a few projects that I've been in that I was super proud of that no one will ever see. And that's really hard. And you're like, wow, if only people knew that I could act, maybe I could act some more, but no one will know because no one will ever see this project. So
exactly. Because it's like, at best you might get footage from those for your reel that you're like, okay, well, at least I can show off like my acting in this to a casting director or whatever. But yeah, it's very frustrating not to have even, sometimes you're like, I just want to help. Like, let me know who I can talk to. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. I'm like, what can I do?
I'm sure you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I'm like, do you need help? Like I'll print some posters. I've come on as a co-producer after the fact to a film I was in, actually helped raise post-production funds, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Jill's like that. It sounds like you guys are the same way.
Mhm.
When you're like, I mean, yeah, I'll do whatever. I'll learn a new skill, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that we can
Right.
finish the thing. It doesn't matter to me.
And that's the thing.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to say, and that's where like maybe not everyone has those skill sets to be like a producer in that regard. Like it's one thing to want to be a content creator and filmmaker, but then really the producer skills is worrying about where's it going, how's the marketing behind that, having the funds for that. Like that all really matters. Otherwise, just to your point, unfortunately, then it may never get seen or pushed out there.
Mhm.
And it's one thing if it's a passion project, but if you like for a career, it's very important.
Yeah. Yes.
So
And a lot of filmmakers, you know, even if they need the help, they don't want to let go of that control. So, you know, I get it because I'm the same. I'm a control freak, but you know, I have had filmmakers where I could have helped. Like I have resources. I've been around since the late 90s here. I got my SAG card in 1999. I've been here for a while and I have a Rolodex of contacts and people who are willing to help. And, you know, a lot of them don't, you know, I don't know. I got it. We got it covered. We're handled. And I'm like, are you though? Really?
Yeah.
Like, have you talked to press? Have you, where is the social media around this? How are the other actors contributing to the marketing of the project? Like, and then you realize, okay, you're a big bossy pants and you're not a producer on this project. So you just need to step away. And that's again, why now I really only want to work on projects that I have a hand in helping to create, or for friends that I love and trust and that I've worked with before.
Yeah.
I'm at a stage of my career where I'm really not interested in chasing down, auditions and stuff. That's not where my head is. That's not where my heart is.
Mhm.
But I've been lucky enough this year, I've probably worked more as an actor this year than I have in the last decade. And it's all just being hired by my friends, when they had the opportunity to do something and they put me in it, and it's been perfect. I don't have to go through that ridiculous, I still had to audition. I still had to audition for Lauren's commercial. In fact, she directed a commercial and I still had to audition for it. But I got to,
That's business, baby.
Yeah,
fair is fair. Fair is fair.
But I got to work with Lauren. I got to work with Bryn, who is our director on this project multiple times this year, and another friend of ours named Annie, who I worked with on Second Shot, which was my sitcom. So I just get to work with my friends, and that's what we're doing too on this project. Like, the crew that we're going to have to get, because we're shooting part or maybe all of the film in Salt Lake City, which is where our writer, Sky, who we'll have to talk to you more about in a second, is where she lives. So we'll probably have to source a lot of our crew from Salt Lake so that we're not flying everybody. But everyone else that we're working with are very close friends of ours. We are very close to Bryn. We're very close to Erin. In fact, we just got back from a girls' weekend up in wine country with her. Katie, who we've brought on, our friend Katie is an associate producer, very good friend. Judy, hopefully, who we will have as our DP if scheduling works out, has worked with Lauren before. So, we want to work with our friends and elevate our friends, our female friends, who frankly should be farther along. Not that they're not in Hollywood, but who women are not given opportunities. I don't have to tell you guys, your audience is probably aware, but the statistics are dismal and we want to elevate women. That is, another big part of our passion with this project.
Yeah. And obviously we love that. That's what we stand for, so we appreciate that. I do want to mention, going back just a little bit, just a piece, I almost don't even want to say the word advice, but just something for everyone listening to be aware of is like talking about working in your friends' projects and how the four of us have that mindset of like, okay, if it's not getting done, we will take over. Like, we are happy to do that if it needs to be done. But to remind people that sometimes you do have to, like, on the flip side, set those boundaries ahead of time, because I know people have expressed interest in like casting me in a project of theirs, and I'm like, okay, but I'm really busy right now, and I know that you know that I produce, but I can't do that for this project. Like, I can only come on as an actor. So, just being aware of both sides of the coin there, because sometimes you got to just say, like, not my circus, not my monkeys, and other times when it does benefit you, when it makes sense, then you can step in and help. So just throwing that out there is something a reminder for our listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really a great advice, but that is the fucking dream. Like, find your people, find your tribe.
Yeah.
And that's like definitely what like, obviously we stand for. Shout out Femme and finding, the like-minded, because that's like what I think we are all hoping to build in our careers, is that longevity of finding those people to bring up with you. I love that you said that, because that is 1000% the goal.
Yeah.
And what makes doing this very hard, long marathon journey of a film like rewarding and fun. Like, you're just gonna be with your friends. You don't have to, like, you're professional, but you can also just be really fucking chill and like have your moments and like rally together. Yeah. So I do want to get into who your team members are a little bit more, because I mean, they to us, looking over your pitch deck, they are really impressive and have done amazing work. Anyone who you want to talk about, and I was gonna ask if you had known them, but clearly you guys are all friends. That's amazing.
Yeah, so Bryn is who we asked to be at the helm of this project, to direct. And Bryn is incredible. We met Bryn about 5 years ago, or about 5.5 years ago, at a distribution lab in New York. And we found out that she lived in LA, and we were like, okay, we need to glom onto her. And she's also awesome. So honestly, she's like the best thing that came out of doing that whole experience. We pitched a series to 4 different networks, and we did all this stuff, but she is actually the gem, the prize basically that we won out of doing that. And she at the time was trying to find distribution for this film that she wrote, she directed, she produced, she starred in. She's just incredible. She works right now for a company, and she directs like for a living. It's for a tech company, so she's doing sort of industrial videos and that sort of thing. But the fact that she's a super creative person who has also found work where every day she's working toward and on directing is remarkable. We've done like dumb short sketches with her. She directed a solo show, a live theater show that I did about 3 years ago. She's just one of those people that I would trust with just about anything that I do and touch. She's so smart, so collaborative. She mentored me basically through directing. I did a Hyundai commercial earlier this year, and I was a ball of nerves about it. And she gave me a lot of really good advice too. So she's that person that you can go to and be like, oh, I'm doing this thing and I'm terrified. And what should I do? You've been here before. And she's an incredible friend and artist.
Nice. And I love that when you find in maybe somewhat of a disappointing thing when you're like pitching or working on a really tough project, like I just wrapped. It's like sometimes really the people are the most rewarding aspect, and I will just take that as the biggest win. Yeah. So no, that's amazing.
And it's also great when you can find a mentor in like a friendship, even though it was a friendship born out of like professional business, but because sometimes it's really hard to find a mentor for what you want, especially if you're not like in a program that's like, this is a program to find your mentor, or a class or whatever. Like, so it's nice when you can find it from somebody that it's like, oh, like you're just a cool human being that I want to be friends with. I also want to work with you. Like, but you've been here before. So can you teach me in this process? Like, that's kind of the perfect relationship.
Absolutely. And capitalizing honestly on her humility, right? Mm-hmm. For someone to be able to say, look, like I showed up on set and I had no idea what I was doing either, but like, these are the tricks and the things that I used to make sure I was managing my set. And someone who understands what it's like to have imposter syndrome, and also know that when you're asking for advice, you're kind of asking that too. Like, you're really saying, I'm really fucking scared and I'm not sure that I know what I'm doing and I don't want to mess up. And she can hear me ask questions, but hear all those things between the lines is also really key. Right. And that's why, again, having friends who are also incredible artists, who are generous with their time and their advice is really important.
And we all do. Well, Bryn is also an actor. She's also a producer. She's also a director. She's also a writer. So we have, with that trio, which we'll talk about Sky in a second, because she's actually an equal partner with me and Lauren in the genesis of this project. It doesn't appear that way because we pitched it because we thought 3 people pitching would just be too much. But she's actually, we came to Sky with just a skeleton of an idea last summer during COVID, because we wanted to do just something. I was going to be in it with Lauren, and we're like, this is before we both went back to school and got really busy, but we were bored. We were like, it's COVID, nothing, we're going to be locked down. Maybe we should try to write a 2-hander that the 2 of us could do. And we knew Sky socially. We hadn't worked with her before, but she came to Los Angeles to do the master's in UCLA screenwriting. And she was strangely a friend of my stepfather, who has Meniere's disease, and they were in the support group together online. So it's completely random. Yeah. But basically, she said to him, I'm coming to LA. And he's like, you should meet my stepdaughter, Jill. I've got a great group of friends. So we connected, and we brought this idea to her last summer, and we started working on it. And then we all got busy. We got like sort of a general outline done. And then when this contest came up, again, this is something that we said in the pitch. We, as a group, have a million projects that we could do, but they all require a lot more money or different resources or whatever. And we were like, this idea is actually appropriate for this, because it's only 2 people. We already know that we have the locations locked. This is the good project for this. So then we asked Sky, can you drop everything you're doing right now and help us fill out this outline to make it a little bit more of a story before we try to submit it. But she's definitely a massive part of the story and where it's going, and how we're going to be able to get this done, because it's her cabin. It's, she has some resources up in Salt Lake that she has not utilized yet, because will be her first project that actually gets produced, even though she's won every major screenwriting award there basically is to win. So I said I'm going to talk about Sky, and then I ended up talking about her, and I didn't finish up with Bryn. What I was going to say about Bryn is, because she does all the same thing. We all do all those things too. We're a writer, we're producers, we're directors, and we're actors. And so it's nice because we all kind of can step up in the places that are needed. And in this particular project, originally I was going to act in it, but then I was like, I can't do both well. You know what I mean? Like, I can produce this or I can act in it, but to do both really well is going to be hard to do at this level. So I stepped back and I said, it wouldn't serve the project best for me to act in it. I'd rather produce it. And Bryn's a really good actor also, and a really good writer also. But, she really wants to direct right now. And, Lauren really wants to act, but she's also a really good editor. And we were like, guess what? We are going to hire you as an editor because you're really good, and we don't have money to pay another person. So I think this team will also benefit from the fact that we're all multi-hyphenate, creatives, and, speaking to younger people, which I don't often get to do, but when I do, I always say to them, you need to start creating your own projects now. Don't wait, because most of us, especially women, we wait until, like, we spend our entire 20s chasing the acting dream, and we don't think about taking the control into our hands and saying, I'm not going to wait. So I'm going to create my own projects, because I will be able to, if I can do this, decently, I'm going to be able to show the world what I'm best at a lot faster than you can. And I wish I would have started producing my own stuff way before I did. So anyway, I'll shut up now, but that's what I love about Bryn is she can do everything. So I feel like we have this great ebb and flow where we all understand what each other's jobs are because we've all done them. And that helps, you know, with the boundaries that you're talking about. It helps with respect. It helps with cohesiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk on the show all the time about how beneficial it is to try everything. And when you make your own stuff, you kind of have to most of the time anyway. But just to be familiar with everything, and you can find that it's something you hate doing and you don't ever want to like direct specifically or whatever, you know, it is, right, to produce. But just to know that you are able to, should a project that you create, it's lacking in one of those areas, you can step in, you know, or you'll see what is lacking and bring somebody else in. So it's just really so important and beneficial to be familiar in all those areas.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm always like, okay, we need this. I'll learn how to do it. Like I think
Yeah.
I mentioned before, if I have to, I mean, if I think I can do it and it'll add value to the project, I've always kind of been like that, like self-taught in Premiere or self-taught in doing, you know, electronic music production or what have you. Anything that could be beneficial to creating a better final product, I'm all about.
Yeah.
And I want to talk for a minute, on your pitch deck, one of the things you had was kind of your like planned schedule for pre-production and everything. And I noticed it was very like, you know, okay, first draft is this month, second draft is the next month, third draft is the next month. Then we're going to, you know, do casting. Then we're going to have a month of rehearsals. Like it was very spread out like through the months, you know, you weren't rushing any part of it, and you still get to start shooting. I think like, what was it, April or May you guys had in mind? Like that's not bad. That's not a long time when it comes to film. So I think that's fantastic too, that you really took or you are planning to take that time to prepare, because like pre-production, I think a lot of times really just kind of gets rushed because people are like, well, I want to make this film. Like I have people that are interested and I have these investors or these people that want to work with me and blah, blah, blah. Let's just go. But like, it's going to go so much smoother if you take that time and you really get to do those edits and have those rehearsals and just slow down before you dive in. So I love that you guys do that.
It really is. And I think I wrote this in the business plan. It's the only hedge against micro budget, you know, budget is that you have to take the time to plan this out meticulously so that every single thing has been accounted for. And, you know, shit happens. I mean, it always does. You can plan and plan and plan. And then, you know what, God laughs or whatever they say. And, but the point is that you plan and then you have a contingency plan underneath that as well. So that inevitably when something goes wrong, you have a fix. You know, I do think I'm good at micro budget producing because I am such a meticulous planner. And that is the only, like, you know, I don't think producing is not that, it's not hard to do, really. All it is just being really organized and being able to anticipate issues and then having a contingency underneath it. So it's not magic. And I didn't go to school for producing. No one ever taught me how to produce. I figured it out along the way and I did it for my projects. And then I was like, oh, this is also producing. That is also producing. Half of producing really is communication. That's it. Really learning how to manage people. How do you manage your investor? How do you manage the distribution company? How do you manage marketing? How do you talk to your cast and crew? It's really just about, are you really good at talking to people? And if you're a person who's good at talking to people and who has high social skills, most likely, and you're organized, you will be a good producer. That's all it really takes. But I absolutely was like, we cannot rush pre-production with this kind of budget. We have to have time to try to, you know, create relationships and get resources. Like the minute that this was announced that we won, I have like 3 different tools that I want to be able to use, which we don't have the budget for. So I'm trying to get sponsorships for it, you know, like, and I don't wait to ask. I just dive in. I'm not talking to, I'm like, I'm going to get a, you know, a demonstration with this company. And then I'm going to push for a sponsorship. You know, that's all this is, but you need time.
Yeah.
You know, you need time and rehearsal and planning, and you have to cover every single aspect of anything that could go wrong, like travel. You know, that's always the I mean, there's a million moving pieces. But literally thinking through from moment to moment, I got to get my actor, you know, to Salt Lake City. And then, you know, there's per diem, there's transportation, there's all this kind of stuff. And you have to have time to meticulously plan every step along the way.
Tessa, oh my gosh. VidAfair is so cool. We can literally rent movies for so cheap.
And movies we probably wouldn't have gotten to see otherwise. Indie movies that don't normally make it to the streamers. What a great resource.
But how cool is it that the filmmakers make money too? Like actual money, not fractions of a cent based on hours upon hours of views.
Exactly. Filmmakers set their own price for a 24-hour rental, and viewers reap the benefit of micropricing. Everybody wins, and there's so much to choose from.
It's so simple. Fair trade film monetization. And all you have to do is visit vidafair.com. That's VIDA fair.com to make an account today. Yeah, I love that you said that, because I was just going to say, what are some like contingencies to look out for, like for our listeners? And love that you mentioned travel. I think like parking and walking distance was like a huge one on my last set. Like you don't realize that like where base camp is set up, the amount of minutes, like things like that, like where the restrooms at, and then like COVID safe zones, if you know, are dealing with that. It's like things like that, listeners, if you haven't like really dug deep into that yet, it's all those like little elements that if you don't have the time when you arrive to set, and then you realize, you know, every time you got to go take a bathroom break, it's 10 minutes walking, like you're not going to be able to shoot. Like you're gonna miss half your shots.
I mean, we ran into that with our Western, you know, like we were on horses all day. You have to pee at some point, and the bathroom's like way across the field, and you know, and so that's why like location scouting and planning like that stuff is so important.
And also, I think deciding when you are really pressed for time, what is the most important thing right now? Like, you know, we recently, well, Lauren will tell you. Go ahead.
I'll tell you. I acted in a fantastic short film, really well funded. It was on location in the Sequoias, and loved the script. It was an incredible crew, like maybe one of the nicest.
I went.
Most comfortable sets I've ever been on. And Jill came with me. And there were just a few things. Obviously, I was just working on this as an actor. And there were just some things that I was making mental notes, right? You're always like, that's one also piece of advice I'd give to anybody is no matter what capacity you are in on any set, you can be learning about all different departments. You can be taking notes. You can be saying, I'm not going to do that. Okay, this is really frustrating. Or wow, we're losing time here. Basically, we were sitting, it was a long setup. We'd already done quite a bit of waiting around to get, you know, lights and all that stuff set. And finally, we're about to shoot, do some actual takes. And there was like a prop basically in the corner of the frame that was a little too reflective, right? Mm-hmm. And so 20 minutes later, after they flipped it around, they moved the thing, they tried different configurations. Basically, they were like prop guns on the back. It was just like a cabin, right? Mm-hmm. So again, it's not critical to the story. There's no narrative function for these props. They just appear in the corner of the frame. And, you know, I'm all about, again, we're both super meticulous people. We like things the way that we like them to be. There is a balance though, between knowing like when something is important and when it's worth fighting for, and when you just have to let it go. So ultimately what ended up happening is they just removed the gun that was too reflective from the frame. Right. But 25 minutes, right. That means a lot of time. It's so much time. I think we ended up only doing maybe 1 or 2 takes of my coverage for that part. And
Mhm.
again, they're fortunate that they cast professional actors who have experience, who know what they're doing and who can bring it. But I would have liked another take,
Yeah.
right? Like, sure, I trust, I guess, that, your director, what you wanted and you say that you got what you wanted. But it's things like that where I'm like, is this really the most important thing right now? What is the most important thing? Right.
Totally.
I learned that
Yes.
definitely working on like the Hyundai spot. There were so many things that went wrong that day that like were not going to work. And I think if I'm good at anything, it's at being like, you know what, that's not important. That's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
The essence of the piece we're creating is still intact, whether or not like somebody's wearing that shoe or that shoe. Right.
That's the producer in you.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
to all my directors, I think I said it on the show recently, but like if you can like learn more about producing, that's going to just help you save time and learn to make those decisions. Cause that's definitely what I saw in my last set is a lack of producing. And it was just really, really hard because time was running out like a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, with low budget, you really do have to make those decisions and say, listen, like, is this room is in terms of production design what I want it to be? No, but if your story is good and the acting is good, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Really, they really don't. Like I did $1,000 web series, got international distribution. The production values sucked. I mean, it technically didn't look good. Sound wasn't great. Like it, we weren't expecting to see this thing on the big screen ever. We did it for fun, but the reason it was good is because the story was good and because every shot that we picked was based on the performance and the acting. And so people so got into the story that they forgave all of the little mistakes here and there. And when you don't have the money for great production design, then you just have to really focus on the acting. And like, I think of that 25 minutes that they were sitting there and I was like, that's 4 takes, guys. That's 4 takes. That you
at least
play, the actors didn't get to like, explore a little bit outside the script.
And you warm up into it too, anyways.
Yes.
Always. That first take is like not your take.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that kind of stuff that, I was sitting there going, oh my God, really, guys? Does it matter?
No, what a great example. Like, seriously, that, you feel like this might carry so much weight and it really doesn't. There's other things going on and happening that should take precedence.
Yeah.
So that's a really good example. And yeah, love the advice. I found that too. Being on set in any capacity, you're learning if you're open to it. And I'm like the first person to ask like questions like, how do you do this job? Like, don't be afraid if it's not distracting, like there are moments where there are lulls, it's a long day on set. If you're interested and, don't want to necessarily do that person's job, but at least like, no, like I haven't had to work yet on like a huge set. Like we're still beginners. We're still like learning the ropes here, but like just really knowing the difference between the AC's job and the AD's job and like how they kind of differ, like, and then the person taking the different takes, like why. Because a lot of times, again, in indie, like people do multiple, but to really know when you want to be able to hire more people so that everyone can just stay focused, what is it that they're actually doing? And so like, if there's a lull, I'll just like start chatting just so I get to be more familiar with what their responsibilities are.
Yeah.
Because that's your job as a producer, to know exactly what they're doing.
Well, and it's good to know, like, on a big like studio level set where there is different people doing every different job, it's good to know all of those, because then when you have your little skeleton crew of 5, you're like, okay, well, the AD is going to also have to be the PA and also the script, and just knowing like all the things that in a perfect world you could cover with multiple people, but you have to cover with so few people. Because, if you're just going into it being like, oh yeah, all I need is a director and a camera operator and that's it. Like, you need to know what you're missing to be able to fill that in with with the only people that you have.
That's a mistake I see too, is with low budget or skeleton crew, they're picking the wrong crew to cut. Like there are certain crew members that you absolutely must have. And that's why, you know, we are going to, what we proposed very openly is that 25,000 is not enough money. We need 50 because, and we're going to raise the other 25. We need 50 because we have to pay everybody. And that's our other part, is that we do believe in paying. We can't pay people their rate, but at the very least, we wanted to create a very clear differentiation between the crew and the people that we're going to ask to work as volunteers. And those are students, because we believe ethically it's okay to use students because they're learning something, they're getting experience, they're going to have a real credit on IMDb and on their resume. And then, you know, what crew could work for students, and then the crew that we absolutely must have and that we must pay, because we're not going to ask a single professional to work for free on this. We are going to pay everybody, and we are going to share our back end split, which by the time we're done will be next to nothing, but it's a gesture of our respect for their art and for their experience and for where they are in their career. So we're going to share back end. It was a plan that I think Lauren and I talked about for another project where we're going to give points to crew to get people who are at a level where they normally wouldn't do a project like ours. Will that perhaps entice them to do it? So yeah.
And back end, you mean for like distribution sales?
Yeah.
If I'm
say
correct?
Like if we were to, you know, become a Blair Witch type hit, we want to have in legal built-in, you know, pay for these people who helped us make this project. Because it's never the crew that gets back end ever. I mean, rarely anybody gets back end, but in those rare cases where it actually happens, we want to make sure that we share. You know, we want to share really the spoils. Awesome. You know,
and that's something I want to dive into as well. Is so you guys are raising the other 25K. So what is your plan for that? Because I feel like a lot of podcasts that I tune into or classes that I take or whatever talk about the pitch and not everything that leads you to the pitch, you know, of like, how do you find these investors? Should you crowdfund first or find investors first? Sponsorships, like all of this stuff. So I'd love to hear what your plan is for it, or what you've already done, what you plan to do, all of that.
Yeah, I think that the first thing to know is when you have some money in, it automatically becomes easier, right, to raise more money. Right. So that is something that we kind of knew going into this, like, okay, if we can get the commitment for, you know, the $25,000 and then all these resources, right, from WeMakeMovies, then it's going to be easier to solicit other people, right? Because you're saying we're making this movie regardless, right? We already have this built in. Clearly someone else, right, this other entity, this other organization believes in us and our project enough that they are providing resources and funds. Also, it kind of makes the project bigger than just you. You're not really asking a new investor like, hey, I'm making a movie. Like, will you give me money? You're saying, I have a whole kind of infrastructure already built around me. There's an organization that is not going to want to see this project fail, right? They have a vested interest. There are basically additional supports built in place. Because I mean, we've struggled the same, right, to try to find funding for previous projects where there wasn't any kind of seed funding, and it is so hard to make the leap from 0 to 50,000 or whatever it is that you think that you need. So that was why we were like, okay, if we can get this, we do want to raise these additional funds, but we think it's going to be easier to do when we can already go to somebody and say, look, we have $25,000 in cash. We have these resources covered. We have this and that and the other. We just need this additional push, right, to get us to a level where we can actually achieve what we want to and pay people and all of that.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
We are weighing some options. We have a few people in our orbit that we are going to just directly solicit to see if we can get all or most of the money from them, just because it's easier. You know, I'm not a super big fan of crowdfunding anymore for a few reasons, partially because I've done it a million times. I also think we've just kind of reached a place where crowdfunding it's so common. the story that I always tell, which is absolutely true, is it's very difficult when I'm seeing people posting crowdfunding for like funerals and medical care to then alongside them ask for movie money. You know what I mean? I just feel like, it's hard to ask people to fund creative things when other people are like, I need to, deal with my brain cancer. That's just me.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of crowdfunding. It's a lot of work. Constantly asking people for money is irritating as a creative person. And now it's my job for a theater company here in town. So I don't like it. And then I also, I'm not going to say that crowdfunding diminishes, because in a way it can help build an audience, but all those same people that are going to give you money would see the movie anyway. So you're not really, in my opinion, building that much of an audience.
Yeah.
Because this movie is about NFTs, we are planning to make that a part of either post to raise money for like film festival, blah, blah, or finishing funds, or we might do it in the beginning to raise money, depending on how these investor talks go.
Mhm.
I was just going to ask,
Yeah.
because that's something that was brought to my attention too, as a way to raise money. So, and
yeah, I mean, we have to learn how to do it. We have to
Right.
have the money to put them up, because just selling them, and Lauren knows far more about this than me, costs money. But she said she's willing to learn new skills. So she's figuring out how to do all that.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of companies out there. It's so interesting because, people have been trying to put music on blockchain for a long time. And there are quite a few like sort of nascent organizations like up and coming in the music space, like raising tons of money. And there's a lot of really promising projects. What doesn't exist quite as much is that sort of environment for filmmaking. And obviously, I think it's because of the obvious, right? Film is super involved. There's so many more people and players involved. There are a couple companies that have my eyes on. There's a company called Mogul Productions that's selling their own cryptocurrency called Stars. There's a company called Decentralized Pictures, but they're still kind of in infancy and figuring out like kind of how things are going to work. And I don't feel like, at least at this stage, they're necessarily geared toward independent filmmakers. I think it's still kind of like down the road, right? Figuring out how to create a new model for financing projects. So again, because our actual story and narrative does touch on the digital art space and NFT space, I'm just going to kind of explore, right, what might be possible, whether it's like actually selling art that we use in the film as NFTs as part of fundraising, or if there are assets from the film or something like that we can do and sell. It's going to kind of be an experiment, but I'm definitely interested in these new sorts of funding streams. That's the thing, like tech, especially fintech right now, financial tech, there's so much money there. It's insane, right? You're like, they raised $300 billion, or they have $100 million development fund. And because this is sort of in alignment with what I'm getting my master's degree in, I just feel like it would be a wasted opportunity not to try to mine what might be possible here.
Yeah,
So.
I'm interested just because, again, like to Jill's point, like crowd funding has been there for now a while. Like, I feel like it's our job to see what other new platforms are out there, because that's where people are like showing more interest in now, and like would be like, oh, what is this? And get excited around it, like especially in the new like tech space and with cryptocurrency, and like because it's a new way. I mean, I at least that's how I think of it. Like,
well,
right.
I thought of it in terms of like, okay, we could ask everyone we know to give us $25 for crowdfunding, or we can ask you to buy an NFT, which could blow the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that could be worth far more than $25. So we're giving you a different type of investment than you just giving us a donation. We're giving you something in return that in theory, it could increase in value. And you would have given us that money and never seen anything after the fact. But instead, we want to give you a piece of this film or of art that could become valuable down the road. So I'm always like, you know, I have a hard time asking for pure donation. I want to always give something in return. Like, what can I give you that makes this worth your while? So it's a back and forth, because then I feel like later I can do this again and you're more willing to answer my call or respond to my email. You can't always just be asking. You have to give something back and create a symbiotic relationship, as opposed to this poverty mentality of just give me and donate to me. I don't like that. And it's not a powerful position to come from, to just constantly be asking people to give you things for free. And when you work in this budget realm, that's often where you are. And so I'm really trying to find a way to evolve that, because again, going back to women, minorities, LGBTQ folks, we don't get a lot of options for funding. So when we do, I want to make the most of it. And I want to show the people that do take a chance on us that they made a very good investment. And that's another part of this, is like, you know, we want this to lead to other opportunities, and for other opportunities, specifically for women and LGBT folks and people who are not white. Not that, you know, white people aren't great, but you know, we've been given opportunities, so it's time for other people now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's really important mindset. Yeah, and I that's something Tessa and I are now trying to build as we try to seek new investors. Is I feel the same. I hate just like asking for money, and that's why I don't want to go the crowdfunding approach if we can avoid it. Personally, that's where I'm at too. I'm not quite a fan, but also because I want to have a long-lasting relation with this few investors that could potentially be a part of our journey, our project, what we are standing for, what we want to produce. But I think also needing to really break down what they could be getting in return is like, I think where we need to solidify a bit more of our time, because I feel the same way. I think they should have either, if it's some back-end points, like you said, or something else that they can feel like a part of. And I think that comes with, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a bad place to also just converse if you can and ask like what they could see themselves wanting more from, you know, as fellow filmmakers. Sometimes it feels like that, but you never know like what someone else's passions are.
That's true. Absolutely.
That's why people say hit up dentists for investors, because, you know, it's someone that isn't personally in the field, but they might think it's really cool and they want to be involved, but they know that they can't. So that's how they can get involved, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
There's
and
like,
thinking about, you know, part of what they're doing now with music and some of these, you know, organizations I mentioned before is you're basically, you are investing, you can invest in like someone's song, right? Like it's obviously a simpler thing because it's like maybe one single artist, right? And what you're doing when you invest is you're actually purchasing like fractional shares of the song, so that when the song is successful, you in turn, right, get some sort of return, or, you know, you actually get to profit potentially off of that success. And that really feels like community building to me, because you're not just going out and saying, oh, you're part of this community because you gave me $25 and I'm going to send you like a mug, right? You're actually saying your investment, right? Like you are attached essentially to this project due to your investment. Like if and when this is successful, it's not going to leave you behind.
Yeah.
Right. So that's actually also saying you should promote this film too, right? Because your financial success potentially is actually tied to the success of this film, right? So finding a way to basically modify crowdfunding and give people like an actual tangible, expandable share of whatever the product is that you're creating is really like kind of the next phase of this, I think. And I could go on and on and on and start talking about DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations and stuff like that. I don't know if you heard about the people who just like pooled money to try to buy this copy of the Constitution.
No.
They raised like, it's called the Constitution DAO, or Constitutional DAO. They ended up raising like $20 million. They actually got outbid by some billionaire, which is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really interested in looking at new structures and new technology as a way to kind of take things that we're kind of familiar with, like crowdfunding, right? But tweak them
Right.
and modify them so it doesn't feel like you are just doing that. Like, I'm over here making my project, please give me your money. You're saying, why don't you get on board, come along for the ride? If and when I'm successful, so shall you be, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I'm just dipping my toes into, but really passionate about trying to figure out a way forward in that space.
We've never been, and there is this tendency to want to protect resources, right? Like, it's understandable when very few of us are being given opportunities. I think our tendency is to say, I'm going to close ranks and protect this resource. And I have always been of the belief it's the opposite, is when you open yourself up and you share and you open your arms and give a little in every direction, that will come back to you. Instead of saying, no, this is ours, I can't tell this information because I don't want them to get theirs. No, this is why we are where we are. We have to help each other out. And it's, I do have some frustration with like powerful women in our industry, or women who I perceive to have enough money that could help other women. I do hold women to a higher standard. There are multiple billionaires who, if they gave away just a fraction of their wealth, could completely change society, but I won't get into that. I don't expect them to give their money away. With women, I do expect that. I have higher expectations, and I wish that we helped each other more. I wish that we trusted each other more. I wish that when something came to us that we saw was an opportunity, we would share that information with each other instead of being worried about that I'm not going to have mine if I give it away. That's not who we are. We've always been those people. We will continue to be those people. I admittedly work with kind of the same group. I'm like the Christopher Guest of the lesbian community, where I kind of work with the same cast and crew a lot because I love and trust them. But I've always been excited and open to, make new friends, make new allies, help each other out. Because I really do. Our relationship with Brynn is a perfect example of a symbiotic, we saw her, we immediately connected. We're like, you have the same mindset we do. We must be friends and stay in touch. And we've helped each other do projects now for 5 years consistently. So yeah, that's us.
Yeah, I love that. That's how we are as well. I mean, we've both been frustrated when we've talked to other filmmakers, and, it's like, well, can you give me an idea of like the sort of the price range that, this sound person that you hired was, and they won't give you a number. Or when you ask someone like, well, what's your rate? And they're like, well, what's your budget? And it's so like, it doesn't have to be so secretive, because if I'm asking someone their rate, like, if they say they're willing to negotiate, great, fantastic. But like, I might not even have an idea of my budget yet, but I need to know how much someone costs
what are you worth?
Does what you do. Yeah, exactly. So it's so frustrating when people don't want to be open and honest and to share information or share resources or whatever it is. So yeah, we're like you guys very much so in that respect. Yeah.
I'm into transparency on all fronts. Like casting, I feel the same way, right? When we're actors, it's like, I've gotten so many little tidbits of information just by sharing with some of my actor friends. You find out like, oh, cool. Like you auditioned for that project too. Oh, but a different role. Oh, interesting. Now I know something about how you are perceived type-wise versus how I'm perceived type-wise.
Yeah.
Or I had a situation where I got an audition, a tape for a project. And because I shared that information with a friend of mine, she had actually auditioned for the same thing like a few weeks prior and like felt really good about it. But we could kind of confidently guess that if they're now doing a second round looking for new submissions several weeks later, like she could probably let that go, which is sometimes really valuable as an actor when you're like, okay, I didn't get that one, right? Because otherwise you just never know. You're just hanging out there for weeks, putting all your hopes in one basket. And I feel the same about sort of all fronts and aspects of this industry, is that transparency is actually really helpful to so many of us and whatever stage we're at, or if we're just acting, or if we're trying to produce something, and having a little bit more information and knowing how people work can really benefit us.
No, I love that you ladies are not like that. So thank you for being on the show today to share all the experiences you've had. I think it's been like, for our listeners, probably a cool way to hear about what, like, even when you do get money, where you're at. Like, it's not okay and we take off and we start filming. Like, there's all these other elements at play that make you a good producer and help with micro budgets in particular, which is where we're all at right now. So
Yeah.
and so it's just, thank you for just being you today.
Yeah.
And like, and sharing all of that, because again, not everyone does, and we try to find guests who are. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's so important.
And
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're honored that you asked us, and we'll definitely, be in touch with you guys. Happy to do a postmortem when we're done.
Yes. But one other thing to ask you ladies to share is, for our listeners, social media or websites or anything like that you want to share and promote.
Yeah, I'm at the Lauren Neal, like pretty consistently across social channels. Yeah, Instagram, Twitter. I'm around.
I am mostly a tweeter. I protected my Instagram account at one point and sort of missed the wave there, but I'm mostly active on Twitter. I'm at Daily Jill.
Awesome.
Perfect. And do you believe that you will be having a handle for this feature film? And if so, do you want to say the title, or do you have one? Like, we've already locked in our handle.
Oh yeah,
just preemptively.
We have all that. Yeah, we our Instagram handle for this film, the We Make Movies competition film, is at _the_influencer _movie.
Perfect. We'll be following you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll see you on the line, as I always say. We'll be in touch with via social media, but hit us up whenever. And thank you again.
Thanks for listening to FemmeRegardPodcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at FemmeRegard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.